Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
Do you know if you are in love?
Do I know if I'm in love?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been married for almost 34 years. So, yes, I do. Did I always know it? No, right? I mean, I'll say to my wife several times now, like, I don't think I ever knew what love was until I was married to her.
Okay.
I mean, did I have relationships before her? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But I would have called that love.
Okay.
But I don't feel like I knew that. I don't think I knew what love was until maybe even several years into marriage.
Okay. Well, you know, we talk in our world. I love this. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I love Journey. I love their music.
I know you do.
And, I love Meghan Trainor music.
You do.
And I love tacos.
And yes, you do.
But
and all Mexican food.
Well, that is true. That is true. But
whereas I love Chinese food.
Ooh, yes. General Tso's chicken.
Yes.
Or Szechuan beef.
Yes. All of this is not really Chinese food, but it's American Chinese food, and I love it.
Okay. Well, but is that the same level of love as you have for your grandson?
Well, now, if I say yes, I'm in trouble.
Okay.
Right, because that definitely can't be the same.
Okay.
I mean, right?
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I ran into something. It was started as a Facebook reel.
Okay.
And then I did a little exploring, and it led me to a journal, or not a journal, but a website article on the centerforhealing.com. And it was about Tao Te Ching.
Ooh.
And of course, Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, developed, I guess, this mindset. I don't think I would call it a religion, but he identified 5 types of love.
Okay.
And so I thought it might be kind of fun to kind of explore.
Sure.
And dive a little bit into this, because he talks about that, we have that love comes in many different flavors, or he actually calls them levels of love, and some are unhealthy and can be actually ego driven. Mm-hmm. And some of them, and it can go then all the way to the most enlightened and selfless expressions of love.
Okay.
And so as I was reading through those, I thought, oh my gosh, maybe my obsession with tacos, I love tacos, is more ego driven, whereas the love I have for my wife is more of that selfless expression of love. But we could run it through the test.
Okay.
If you're up to that.
Sure. Of course I am.
Okay. So the first kind of love that the Tao Te Ching talks about is possessive love. When love becomes ownership.
Okay.
And
this sounds dangerous.
Well, and he calls this the lowest form of love, at least according to Taoist tradition.
I mean, I love my truck.
Okay. Don't mess with my truck. Don't ding it.
Right.
I'm going to wash it.
I possess my truck. I love it.
Okay. I kind of feel the same way about when I had my truck, or now my car. Yeah. But you can also be in a relationship that the other person wants to possess you.
I've seen those.
Yeah. And so they identify this as, that possessive love basically is treating a partner like something that can be owned or controlled. Now, we can own our car. We can kind of control our car to an extent by how we treat it, how we baby it, how we, constantly change the oils, rotate the tires, wash it, vacuum it, wax
unless its name is Christine.
But Christine became very possessive too.
Sure.
And so, but again, it starts out as kind of like, ooh, somebody loves me, but that possessive love can kind of, is it ego driven? And
Okay.
is this love really about a relationship, or is it about a status symbol?
I mean, if it's ego driven, doesn't it more become about the person who thinks that they love the other person? Right? It becomes more, if I am possessively in love with somebody else, right? Like that, wouldn't that be more about me, how I look, what I think, what I'm, everything becomes about me and my world.
Trading, the guy that trades in his wife for a younger model. It's not about love. It's about,
Where do you do that? I mean, I don't think that's a thing, but
I don't know.
It sounds illegal to me.
Well, but, I was married to a gorgeous woman, and then,
Right.
she started getting old, so I'm going to trade her in for a younger model. And then you do it again, and now you've been married 3 or 4 times, and each
It just seems unwise. Why would you want a less experienced, less intelligent, less wisdom, less everything?
Because it's
Right.
about the symbol. It's
Okay.
not about the love.
So the trophy. You want the
Yes.
trophy.
Yes. Now, I've joked that I'm a trophy husband, but I say that tongue in cheek.
I guess I would agree with that.
But here's the thing: when you're in this kind of possessive love, you're not really loving
Sure.
as much as you are objectifying them.
Okay.
And so you're a part of this relationship is how that relationship can feed you rather than you nurture each other.
Okay.
And of course, when you're in this kind of relationship, you're worried about control. When I was going through my divorce, in our divorce group, we had folks that their ex was extremely possessive.
Right.
And part of the divorce procedures in their case was all about fear of losing control. And they hated that their ex was standing up and displaying some backbone. A good friend of mine, and she's now, last I heard, was a lawyer down in New Orleans. But when I first met her, I mean, she was really struggling, but because she was so used to being in this kind of possessive love relationship.
Sure.
Where again, so anyway, that's kind of the first kind of love. And I would associate that to, our cars.
Okay.
Or my love of tacos.
You definitely have a love of tacos.
Yeah. But again, it's an it's not a nurturing love.
Right.
Okay. I love Journey music because of how it makes me feel.
Right.
It's not that, I give anything to them. Heck, I don't even pay for the music because it's streamed. So,
Yeah.
Though I guess I pay.
I mean, you're still
something.
paying monthly, right? So
Yeah.
somewhere along the
Okay.
way.
Maybe they are getting.
They're getting a cut.
All right. So then the next kind that they talk about in the Tai Ching is the codependent love. And this is kind of when the control and fear begin to take over.
Okay.
And so, and now I have had a number of people tell me that they are in a codependent relationship.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great to me.
No.
I don't know that I would want that. But I can't say, like, I don't know. Maybe as we talk about it more, I'll get a better feel. But as I was, we had a relationship earlier in life, right? I don't know that the beginning of my relationship with my wife wasn't somewhat codependent.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and in this case, when we're talking about a codependent, there is a power struggle and emotional insecurity and a power imbalance. I would say that when I was married to Eric's mother, she and I, unknowingly to me, were in a codependent relationship. Her love for me was about her control.
Sure.
But she was emotionally insecure. And there was a huge amount of power imbalance. And it was kind of my fault that I gave her the amount of power and authority that she felt she had. But it's when how do you know? Well, first of all, it starts with they're trying to change your behavior. And I would say that, Eric's mom was desperately trying to change, and she was somewhat successful in changing my behavior.
Yeah.
And it addresses loyalty issues. There's that fear of being alone. Where are you?
Right.
Well, I need to know where you are at all times because they don't want to be alone. That person is so afraid
Yeah. And I think that maybe some of those things almost naturally show up in an early part of a relationship because you're trying to adjust to being together. Mm-hmm. And so there is some of that fear of loss or fear, where are you? What are you doing? When will you be home? Mm-hmm. A lot of those kinds of things.
But I think some of that is, if it's just a natural curiosity on planning dinner, I'd like to know kind of a window when you think you'll be home, compared to, I'm calling you every half hour. I've got that app on the phone that tracks your very movement. I want to know, who are you talking to? I want to be included on your emails. I want to, know everything about you. And so, because when you're reaching that point, now that's where it goes from, again, something positive to something negative.
Right.
And so that emotional dependency it's all about them more than you. And, because how many times, and I've seen this multiple times. You're in this relationship because, you want to fix them. You want to rescue them.
Right.
And if you're in this situation to fix or rescue, well, now you're emotionally dependent on this person to feed you.
Right.
And now it's codependent. It's not relationship's got to be a two-way street. You got to get as much as you give. It does.
Yes. It's got to be you. But I think that for me, now being married for almost 34 years, for me, it's more about what can I do for her? And in turn, she will do stuff for me. I just don't expect it.
Right. I think a lot of times you can see this in young kids, our kids that we taught, our own children when they're beginning to date. Mm-hmm. I think it's easy to get into a codependent relationship because how many times when we are a teenager or even into our early 20s are we emotionally insecure?
Right. I think that's where I was getting at. Like for us, we were young, right? Like we were teenagers. Mm-hmm. And so, naturally you are unsure of yourself. You have fear of losing the other person. There's insecurities that are taking place because you haven't established any of that stuff, and you don't have that surety in your life at that point. And you watch other people have relationships that only last whatever. I mean, before I met my wife, my longest relationship ever was probably 3 months.
Okay.
Now it's 35 years. Mm-hmm. So
sure.
I don't think I can get longer than that, even if we broke up. Like I'd probably be gone before then. So, you just don't have those maturities yet to be able to deal with those things. So I think that a lot of times it might start out this way, but hopefully you withstand it and you grow in it. And you come to respect the other person enough to realize, I don't need to track your movements. Mm-hmm. I don't need to know exactly where you are all the time.
Well, and a lot depends. Yes, you've got age in there, but you also got, again, a person's mental health. Being married to Eric's mom, she had borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
And so that influenced how she could love. And so that mental illness made it hard for her to go. It was, again, she was more into the control issue. And I will say I bought into it because one of the last things to be a clue that you're in a codependent relationship is you begin to lose your personal identity. Yeah. And I know I sure did. The hobbies, the things that I love to do, I stopped doing.
Yeah.
And it's unhealthy. And so I kind of am glad.
Yeah.
So the third one that they talk about is the romantic love.
All right.
And this is...
How you doing?
How you doing? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Joey. And it's basically, though, in this case, we're talking about the illusion of who the perfect partner is. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in looking who's the perfect person. And again, I see this in young people in particular, or when I was going through my divorce, all of us were looking for that perfect mate.
Yeah.
But who's perfect?
Yes, I would agree. I mean, I constantly tell my wife that she's perfect, and she tells me she's not perfect. And my response is, but you're perfect for me, right? And so in my mind, that makes you perfect. I mean, was it always so? Maybe not, right? But would I have been looking for the perfect person? No, I mean, I was clueless. I was a teenager. So I don't even think I would have known to do that. But, she showed up and we, did more of a courting thing. I know that doesn't happen nowadays. And although it was relatively short before it got serious, there was still that, right? Like we wrote letters and notes and all the things that people don't do now because they just text each other.
True.
Random stuff at random times, and it's not well formed. But, that allowed us, I think, to grow a little bit more into the place where I think we both see ourselves as perfect partners, but it was not always that way.
Well, and I think the idea of perfect, how much of that is influenced by media, whether it is the movies that we watch, books that we read, social media, TV shows, whatever. They always talk about, that soulmate.
Sure.
Okay. Now maybe you find them. All right. But when that I think it takes, as you're describing, time that you evolve, that love begins to actually grow more out of respect. And so the idea that you need somebody to complete you, to be the yin to your yang, you kind of project fantasies onto these people, romantic love, is when all these different kind of things. And we imagine them as being perfect. We overlook their flaws, expect them to live up to some unrealistic expectation or image. Maybe even just the idea, not just even that person, but the relationship that you have together. Ooh, it's this.
Right.
And
what I think is funny about this, and this came to mind. And I know it's not Journey, but I think you'll recognize it and still like it. I don't know if you know who Rupert Holmes is.
No.
You will in a second.
Okay.
But, he wrote a song.
Okay.
About the dissatisfaction he had with his wife.
Okay.
And she apparently had the same dissatisfaction. And in his song, which is called Escape, although we know it as the Pina Colada song.
Yes.
He writes to the newspaper because he wants excitement. He's looking for that perfect partner, that's somebody who likes those pina coladas and getting caught in the rain. That's the thing that he wants. He wants that excitement. And to his dismay or surprise, maybe, as he goes to meet up with the person whose ad he responded to, who turns out to be his wife, he said, I never realized that you like that, right? Like, she really was the one for him, and they were for each other, but they just never realized it. They never really saw that. And I think that's where, when I say, like, maybe we weren't perfect for each other, but we are, right? Like, we've discovered the things about each other that we really enjoy, that we really like, how we get along now. Fortunately, we did it without having to respond to personal ads and show up in a bar to find out. But I mean, I think that's part of it, right? You expect that completion, but you don't even realize necessarily that the person might actually be
the
right
one
there.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I think Lao Tzu was going in these final two. And subjective love is the fourth one he talks about. This is basically loving without conditions.
Yeah.
All right. There is no ownership. I don't own you.
Yeah.
You don't own me. All right. But it's I think focusing more into what you've been describing that you and Eileen have is that no one truly belongs to them or to you as an individual. She's not yours.
Right.
All right. Or you're not hers. All right. But you are choosing to live your lives together.
Yeah.
There's no conditions.
Right.
There's no idea of, if you do this, I'll love you.
Right.
All right. Or you love me only because I do that. No. There is no conditions. You love unconditionally. And that the idea that your love goes beyond any romantic relationship. It's not like you have all the dates or all the sex or all that. All right. You actually enjoy your time.
Right.
It could be watching a TV show together. It could be taking a walk in the neighborhood after dinner. It could be, okay, you guys really enjoy going to Disney, but is it Disney? Or is it the fact that the two of you are together experiencing some of your favorite memories together?
I mean, there's that. I mean, part of it is that it's Disney and we're there together at Disney, although we both also enjoy being at Disney alone. So
okay.
Either way, but obviously we like it better together, right? I mean, we like to do things together. I like to go on day trips. We like to have little adventures. We enjoy those things. We started out in dating doing those kinds of things, and we still do them. So that's definitely a thing, right? I mean, what I hear here about loving without conditions, I think I said some vows and she said some vows, and we're very traditional. So we said the vows that everybody always used to say, right? I actually was thinking about this morning, the vow thing, and in that, I like those traditional vows because we both said the same thing, and they cover such a wide range of things, right? Health, finances, everything about the person, right? Like we're going to stay together, period. And that's a huge challenge, right? And I'm not saying that anybody who is incapable of maintaining that is a failure, right? Because there's two people, and things happen. But it's a huge thing to love that way and try to do it without conditions. That's huge. And I've always come back to, I don't necessarily believe that love is a feeling, that it's more about an action and the feeling comes later.
And I think that's kind of where we're headed with this, because part of what makes you really fully, truly 110% love that person is being able to know them. And to truly know them, you have to be willing to open yourself up and become vulnerable,
right?
To show them the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because, you're right, those vows in good times and bad. Well,
yeah, I mean, for better, for worse, right?
Yes.
And that's not just about situational life. That's about like the better and the worse in the other person or in yourself. I mean, like we're going to work it out.
And that's kind of the thing, is it's a risk. It's a risky issue for us as an individual to open ourselves up.
Right.
And when you're able to reach that, and again, I call this more of a mature love. It's not that superficial stuff that you might have based on physical attraction only. Right. You're now really loving that person, their character, their everything about them.
Right.
And so, which, like I say, it's that human connection, which we as humans, we need human contact.
Right.
And depending on the individual determines what that contact looks like. Because we are not meant to go through this world alone.
Right. That's important, right? Like we are designed to be relational. And so you need somebody to be relational with in a deep way.
And that's the last type. And this is what a Taoist says, or Lao Tzu or Tai Ching. You actually become love. And in this, and I look to my mom and dad, that I think they truly became love itself. I mean, how else do you survive 60 plus years of marriage?
Sure.
And all the trials and tribulations that my sisters and I put them through. Because you're not just simply loving that other person, you're living it as love.
Okay.
And you're now transcending the boundaries of things. It's no longer an ego thing.
Sure.
It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us. The boundaries are pretty well gone. Where you and Eileen separate, well, it's kind of blended. We can take a chocolate chip cookie and you can separate the chocolate chips from the cookie. All right. But you take a chocolate cake and you say, okay, let's separate the oil from the egg from the batter. Good luck. You can't. And so when you reach this, I see this as a blending where you can't tell one person ends and the other person begins.
Okay.
But you also tend to live in harmony. Harmony, now again, this is Taoist, so there's a lot of nature in there, but living in harmony with nature, but also going with the flow of life. You know,
Right.
we've talked before about stress and how stress can get to us and wear us down and be anchors to the joy and happiness of life. Well, in this particular case, your love with your partner is so intense and so pure that it's like water off a duck's back. You know what? It just is.
Yeah.
And we'll get through this like we've gotten through everything else.
And I don't want to say, I know that I talk about us being married for 34 years and make it sound like, we've had some, glorious, blessed 34 years of incredibleness. While I do see that for me, and to some extent, we also went through all of the trials and tribulations that most people would go through, or at least most of those things throughout that time period. And so, and for a few things, still go through them. But if you choose to find a way to work together in it and commit back to, and this is where I come back to those vows, like, I'm not going to, just because we have financial troubles, like, that's the better or worse part, right? Like, we're going to get through it. And coming through that on the other side is so much, it just creates so much strength in the relationship, right? There's so much strength in the relationship at that point that you do end up in a little bit more of that harmony, right? It becomes easy to some extent. And I'm not saying easy across the board. I'm saying easy in that area. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be easier once you come through that. There's strength, right?
Oh, absolutely.
There's absolute strength in those things. Like, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
To tie in with that, what they always say, it's not what, you're building this connection, you're living it together, and that bond, that survived issue brings you much closer together, and you realize something, and I want to say, I wish this was my idea. Now, okay, back this up. I'm borrowing stuff from a guy who wrote this 2,500 years ago, and he's talking about letting go of material attachments. And I have a very good friend. You and I share this friend, our friend Charlie, who was on with us. Oh, it's been a couple of years ago. Yeah. But he says life is about relationships. Everything else is just stuff. And when I was reading through this, I thought of that when you have, for Sherry and I, it's about our relationship, and it's about our shared experiences. And it's not about the accumulation of stuff, material possessions like house, cars, clothes, objects. It's more about enjoying each other in doing stuff together.
Yeah.
And so I kind of gather with you and Eileen, that's part of, you love going to Disney, but doing that together is more of the draw, the allure.
Right. And don't get me wrong, we like to go other places than Disney. So, we're working on planning a trip to Disney Paris. So we'll see Paris too. But,
okay.
You want to hit all the Disneys.
Okay.
So that's just us. But, right, we always say that. We pass that on to our kids. Experiences are way better than things. Now, I like to have my things.
Sure.
I like to have my truck. I like all my Apple gear.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I like, and I'm not going to do without them. But I definitely think experiences last, right? They're what affects you and who you are and what, the things you believe and who you love and all that stuff.
And that's kind of the pinnacle of being love, that these are the moments that maybe provide that profound connection with that other special person. You're kind of, you see them. And your appreciation for them, as well as the beauty of life.
I think it's great to try to attain it, right? To have it as a goal. I'm not sure that any of us can ever reach it. as he says it.
Right.
But it's certainly something to work towards.
Well, and that's my, that's why I say I think my mom and dad reached that at the end. My mom's still around, but my dad passed a few years ago. My gosh, it's been 3 years already.
Yes, it has.
But when we go back to, again, recap, we got we got 5 kinds of love that they identify in the Tai Ching. And the first 3 are kind of more of your negative loves, whether it's possessive love, codependent love, or the romantic illusion of love. All right. These are the ones that usually get us into trouble. They're a false love. But if we can make it through that, then we can finally get into subjective love, which is, I think, more in what you describe you and Eileen have. That's closer to what I think Sherry and I have now, to ultimately the pinnacle of becoming love.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, what do you want, And I kind of go, well, I want love where love is reciprocated. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to get reciprocated love in the other 3 or in the first 3, because that's unhealthy love. And having been in been in that area, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And I don't know that you're going to find that peace and that happiness, that joy that life can provide when you're in a relationship that is one-sided.
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is from a perspective of somebody who's been married long is stick it through. Mm-hmm. Make it work. It's not easy. Nobody starts out perfect. So you gotta make it work. It can be a chore sometimes, but the rewards are incredible.
I mean, the goal may not be to reach that perfect love every day, but by becoming aware of these different forms of love, maybe we can move closer to relationships that feel maybe healthier, freer, and more authentic.
Absolutely.
Because I want to quote here straight from the Tao: love isn't something we chase or control. It is something we learn to embody.
Well, I can't top that.
All right. Well, then I say go and love your life. Live it with compassion and authenticity. And until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye-bye.